Come see us on tour in Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, and Toronto. Go to jimmydore.com for the cheapest tickets.
Donald Trump at the White House hosting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and making an announcement that the U.S. will be holding direct talks very soon with Iran.
Okay. Wait. We're having direct talks with Iran, and they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious. And the obvious is not something that I want to be involved with, or frankly, that Israel wants to be involved with if they can avoid it. So
I beg to differ. Trump is wrong to say that Israel does not want to be involved in an attack on Iran. Israel would love an attack on Iran. That's what
they don't want to do it themselves.
Exactly.
That is accurate. They don't want to be involved. They want us to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. They don't want to do it by themselves, but they would love to be involved in a U.S. strike on Iran because they can't do it without the U.S. That's why they've been lobbying Trump to do it for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
We're going to see if we can avoid it, but it's getting to be very dangerous territory. And hopefully those talks will be successful. And
all right, so that's Trump announcing direct talks with Iran.
Do they even have nukes? Do they even have them?
No, and as we covered last week on the Jimmy Dore show, the U.S. intelligence community just put out an assessment saying that Iran is not developing nuclear weapons. They are becoming a nuclear threshold nation, which they're allowed to do because they're allowed to enrich uranium just within certain limits, which they've kept to so far. But the fear of Trump is that they're going to go past those limits, and that's what there is to negotiate about. But as of right now, according to Trump's own intelligence agencies, Iran does not have a nuclear weapons program.
So this is what I don't get. They have those missiles that we don't have, because we sent our manufacturing out of the country. So I always thought it was smart, because I thought they were developing nukes, but they were actually making missiles you can use because they're not nukes. And so is this going to be directly leading to war? Because if they don't have the nukes, and Trump's like, well, you have to do this. We have to bomb you. That's why Bibi's all excited over there. He must know they don't have them and feel it's inevitable.
Yeah. Well, it depends what kind of deal Trump is pushing for. Does he just want to deal with the nuclear issue, which I think Iran did that before. They had a deal before. In fact, Trump was asked about this. So let's hear from Trump first.
If you're going to negotiate a new deal with Iran, can you elaborate how it's going to be more effective than the JCPOA?
well, I can't really say that, but I think it'll be different and maybe a lot stronger. But they were so happy when we made that first deal because we did get a lot out.
So it's a fair question. Like, we already had a deal with Iran, the JCPOA, which Trump broke in his first term. So are you just going to renew that deal you broke, or are you going to get something else? And Trump says it's going to be a lot stronger. And the question is Trump going to ask Iran not only to denuclearize, but also give up other missiles that act as a deterrent to Israel, or to cut off ties to Hezbollah, which is its main ally in the region? That's a whole other story, which I don't think Iran will agree to.
That first deal. Now, what I thought was there was some background of that where it was so France could trade with them again, because France, remember, it was around the time Niger kicked France out. And that's what was actually like dodgy about that deal, was it was to hook up France in some way. Do you remember that?
Well, I can't speak to that. What I do know about the first deal is that it just dealt with nuclear, right? And Israel hated that, and neocons hated that because they wanted basically to completely neuter Iran so that Iran would no longer support groups like Hezbollah, which act as a deterrent to Israeli aggression. And that's why Trump tore it up, is because he wanted something more complete. And the question is Iran going to agree to something that basically undermines its standing with its allies, including Hezbollah, which it's invested a lot in being a partner of, and which, helps stand up to Israeli aggression in the region? That's the question. But here is Barak Ravid of Axios. This is what Netanyahu is pushing Trump to do. Netanyahu thinks the chances of a U.S.-Iran nuclear deal are extremely low, but will present to Trump how a good deal should look like. An Israeli official says Netanyahu wants the Libya model, full dismantling of Iran's nuclear program. The Libya model, what's the Libya model? That's where Libya gave up its nuclear program and basically all of its deterrence. And then what happened? It got regime changed.
So
the U.S. took it.
yeah.
So that's what
the deal is.
Netanyahu
We're going to sodomize you with a stick.
exactly.
I wonder if they'll bite on that. Wow.
Exactly. That's literally what happened. So Gaddafi gave up his nuclear program. He gave up all his deterrence, and he ended up getting sodomized by U.S.-backed rebels.
That's
after
one of the worst
US-backed
deals I've ever
bombing
heard
campaign.
of.
Yeah.
That's like the worst deal possible.
Here's Trita Parsi with his analysis. Oh, let me I don't think okay, there we go. There is much focus on Trump's claim that his envoys will meet with the Iranians on Sunday in direct talks. Though there was no confirmation from the Iranian side of such a meeting, it would be a positive development if the two parties meet, particularly if the meeting is direct. But the more important variable is one that continues to remain murky. What are the parameters of the talks, and what red lines and strategy is Trump pushing? If Trump seeks to dismantle the Iranian nuclear program Libya style, which is exactly what Netanyahu is pushing him to do, in addition to closing down Iran's missile program and Tehran's relations with its regional partners, then diplomacy will most likely be dead on arrival. This strategy has been favored by the Israelis, John Bolton and Mike Pompeo, precisely because they knew it would fail. If Trump's strategy is centered on achieving a verification-based deal that prevents an Iranian bomb, his only red line, then there is reason to be optimistic about the upcoming talks. What Trita Parsi is saying is, if Trump wants to basically return to the deal that he tore up in his first term, then yes, there's plenty of room for negotiation. If he's trying to get more than that, a Libya-style deal where basically Iran makes itself vulnerable to a regime change operation like what happened in Libya, then forget it.
Does Israel, honest to God, now 9/11, a bunch of people are like, yeah, let's go over there and clean it up. That was 20 years ago. Not everybody's that big of a moron that thinks that was a great idea that we did that. In fact, I would say very few people who benefited from it think that, right?
Correct.
So in Iran, who's going to send their kids? That wasn't October 7th, wasn't 9/11 here. That was there.
Yeah.
So I noticed them trying to whip up the same fervor as if it was an attack on the one I saw when I was in New York.
Yeah.
And I don't see who's going to join up for that.
Well, Kurt, one answer is this guy, Senator Tom Cotton, a Republican, who this is him recently questioning the incoming chair of the Joint Chiefs at his confirmation hearing. And Tom Cotton wanted his assurance that basically a war with Iran would not be such a big deal, that there's too much hysteria over the possibility of war with Iran.
There's some hysteria about the prospect of the president ordering these strikes, or someone like you in uniform providing him advice that it's going to lead to another forever war or another endless war.
One of these forever, they only last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, like Afghanistan. Forever war in Afghanistan. That went fine. What's wrong with having that again? Another forever war.
Oh my God, that's great.
And by the way, this is what Trump campaigned against. Trump campaigned against the forever war. So Tom Cotton is mocking basically a central tenet of Trump's campaign.
Hysteria. I'm being a lady about it. It must be my ovaries. I need a hysterectomy for my hysteria, Tom. Wow.
Are you aware of operations, maybe operations against Iran, like the tanker wars in 1988, in which the forceful but discriminate application of military power did not lead to a forever war or an endless war, but rather led to peace and stability?
Yes, sir. Those examples in our history do exist.
Maybe the Qasem Soleimani strike in 2020 as well, that caused Iran to pull in its horns for the rest of President Trump's first term. Thank you, General Kane.
Thank you, Senator.
So there's Tom Cotton saying, look, what's with the hysteria? War can lead to peace. Literally, that's his argument. War with Iran.
We killed their general. I think the killing their general might be why these talks ain't going to work out. Well, I guess you don't want it to work out. So,
yeah. And what happened, by the way, after Trump ordered the killing of Qasem Soleimani? Iran retaliated by striking a U.S. base in Iraq and wounded a bunch of U.S. soldiers. And that's exactly who Tom Cotton wants to sacrifice once again.
Yeah.
He wants to sacrifice them once again to get his war with Iran. The question is, who's Trump going to listen to? Is it people like Netanyahu and Tom Cotton? Or is it people like Tucker Carlson, who's been speaking out against a war with Iran? That's the question before us as the U.S. and Iran renew direct talks.
The answer is neither. Laura Loomer.
Come see us on tour in Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, and Toronto. Go to jimmydore.com for the cheapest tickets.